"Mom," my daughter said on Christmas Eve, "you're too old to live here anymore." I did not cry. I just stood beside her fireplace, holding the sugar cookies I had spent 6 hours baking, while the Christmas lights blinked against the windows and snow fell softly over her Connecticut lawn. Follow my story until the end, and tell me where you're watching from. Sometimes I wonder how many women have stood inside their own family's home, and suddenly realized they were no longer welcome there. Vanessa had asked me to smile for the Christmas picture. Her voice had been sweet then. "Move in a little, Mom. You're barely in the frame." I stepped closer, careful with my sore hip, and stood beside the tree while Daniel wrapped his arm around her waist. The twins sat cross-legged on the rug in matching red pajamas, half watching a Hallmark movie and half staring at their new tablets. For one brief moment, I let myself believe the evening might be good. Then the flash went off. The twins groaned. Someone laughed. And Vanessa's face changed. "Okay," she said, folding her arms. "Now that Christmas pictures are done, we need to talk." The grandfather clock in the hallway struck 9. 9 slow chimes. Vanessa looked directly at me. "Mom, you're too old to live here anymore."
Ich zerrte her.
"What?" Daniel suddenly became very interested in fixing the cuff of his sweater. "This house isn't set up for someone your age long-term," Vanessa said. "The stairs aren't safe. You almost fell in the kitchen last month. And honestly," she paused, "we need our privacy back." My fingers tightened around the plate. "I've only been staying here temporarily." "It's been 8 months, she replied. "Temporary stopped being temporary a long time ago. 8 months earlier, my condo had flooded after a pipe burst during a winter freeze. Vanessa had insisted I come stay with her family. She posted pictures online. 3 generations under one roof. Blessed to care for Mom. People praised her. Meanwhile, I cooked dinner 5 nights a week, picked up the twins from school, folded laundry, and quietly paid for groceries whenever I noticed the pantry getting empty. But standing there beside the Christmas tree, I no longer felt like family. I felt like furniture someone had finally decided to remove. Then I saw them. Through the cracked garage door. Cardboard boxes. Stacked shoulder high. Labeled in black marker. Linens. Book. Winter clothes. My breath caught. "Vanessa," I whispered. "Why are my things packed?" She did not even flinch. "Because I knew you'd make this emotional." For a moment nobody spoke. Silver bells played softly from the kitchen speaker. Outside, snow kept falling as though nothing had happened. "You packed my belongings before talking to me? Mom, please don't do the guilt thing tonight." "Tonight," I said. "It's Christmas Eve." She shrugged. "Exactly. Everyone's already here." Something inside me went very quiet. Not rage. Not even heartbreak. Just a strange numbness, the kind that comes when humiliation arrives too suddenly for tears. Then Vanessa said the sentence I would replay for months. "You have to accept that you're not the center of this family anymore." I carried the cookies into the kitchen and set them beside the sink. Nobody thanked me. Nobody looked at them. Daniel carved roast beef at the counter. The twins argued over whipped cream. Vanessa scrolled through her phone like she had not just dismantled her mother's dignity in front of the Christmas tree. That was when I noticed something worse than anger. She looked relieved, as if removing me had been another chore crossed off a list. "Mom," she said without looking up, "can you grab the cranberry sauce from the pantry?" I opened the pantry door and stared at the shelves. For several seconds I forgot what cranberry sauce looked like. My hands trembled when I carried it back. Daniel noticed. He opened his mouth, then closed it. That silence hurt almost as much as Vanessa's words, because cruelty is painful, but cowardice from someone who knows better leaves a deeper mark. Dinner looked beautiful. Red candles down the oak table, gold ribbon tied around the chairs, Christmas music drifting through hidden speakers. 3 weeks earlier, Vanessa had asked my opinion on those decorations. "You always make things feel elegant, Mom," she had said. Now she barely looked at me. Halfway through dinner, Vanessa set down her fork. "Mom forgot to take her blood pressure medication again this morning," she announced lightly. "I found the pills beside the coffee maker." I looked up. "I took them after breakfast." "No, you didn't," she said with a small laugh. "See? This is exactly what I mean." Daniel shifted. Vanessa. What? I'm just being honest. She turned toward the twins. This is why it's important to stay healthy and independent when you get older. My face burned. I understood then. She was building a case. Slowly. Publicly. Making me seem fragile. Forgetful. Difficult. The kind of woman people place somewhere safe, while congratulating themselves for being responsible. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself, I said quietly. Vanessa smiled. Of course you think that. No one spoke after that. Even the children went silent. I stared at the untouched turkey on my plate and remembered Vanessa at 16, crying into my shoulder after her first heartbreak. I remembered her at 8, leaving milk and cookies for Santa. I remembered the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. I did not know when that girl disappeared. Maybe slowly. Maybe I simply refused to see it. After dinner, I passed the hallway again. The garage door was still cracked open. 15 boxes. Maybe more. Neatly stacked. Carefully labeled. Prepared long before tonight. Vanessa had not decided to remove me on Christmas Eve. She had planned it. Later, I slipped into the laundry room just to breathe. The washer hummed beside me. Snow tapped against the small window over the sink. From the living room, Christmas music floated through the vents, soft and cheerful and unbearable. Daniel stepped in holding 2 wine glasses. He looked startled. Oh, he said. I thought you went upstairs. Not yet. He set 1 glass down untouched. Vanessa didn't mean to upset you. I almost laughed. People always say someone didn't mean it, after that person has clearly meant every word. She packed my belongings before speaking to me, I said. She's been stressed. Stress doesn't label boxes in black marker. He looked away. Finally, he lowered his voice. I tried talking her out of doing this tonight. My eyes lifted. Tonight. He froze. Then sighed. She's been planning this conversation since Thanksgiving. Since Thanksgiving. Every shopping trip. Every cheerful cup of coffee. Every holiday decoration we hung together. All of it had happened while my daughter prepared to remove me from her home. Did the twins know? I asked. Daniel swallowed. Vanessa told them Grandma might be moving somewhere safer soon. Somewhere safer. A polite phrase for being erased. Then Vanessa's voice drifted down the hall. She was on speakerphone. Honestly, I've been dealing with this for months. You have no idea how exhausting it is taking care of an elderly parent full time. I stood still. Daniel's face went pale. Vanessa, he called sharply. Her laughter stopped. She appeared in the doorway with her phone against her chest. What? Then she saw my face. Instead of embarrassment, irritation crossed hers. I wasn't saying anything untrue. Taking care of me? I asked. Vanessa, I buy groceries for this house every week. And we appreciate that, she said quickly. But this arrangement isn't sustainable anymore. Sustainable. A cold word. A business word. Not a daughter's word. You know what hurts the most? I said. Not that you want me gone. It's that you emotionally left long before tonight. For the first time, something flickered across her face. Guilt maybe. Or annoyance that I had named the thing she wanted hidden. Mom, she said, please don't make this dramatic. I looked past her toward the garage. The boxes waited under fluorescent lights. Perfect rows. Perfect labels. And something inside me shifted. I no longer felt confused. I felt certain. My daughter had stopped seeing me as her mother. She had started seeing me as a problem. That night, I sat alone in the guest bedroom staring at the framed photograph on the nightstand. Robert and me. Cape Cod. 20 years earlier. His arm around my waist. My head tilted back in laughter. Robert had been gone nearly 3 years, but grief still arrived fresh some nights, sharp enough to make breathing feel like work. When he was alive, holidays felt safer. He noticed tension before anyone else did. That's enough, he would say calmly whenever someone crossed a line. And somehow everyone listened. Especially Vanessa. I remembered one Christmas when Vanessa was in college. Her roommate had stolen her debit card information and emptied her checking account. Vanessa cried at our kitchen table. Robert listened without interrupting. The next morning, he drove 3 hours through snow to help her at the bank. Family takes care of family, he told her. I wondered if she remembered, or if gratitude becomes inconvenient after people get what they need. A soft knock came. Before I answered, Emma stepped inside. She clutched her stuffed reindeer. Grandma, she whispered. Are you leaving tomorrow? Children never circle pain. They walk straight into it. I'm not sure yet, sweetheart. She looked down. Mom said old people are happier living with other old people. The sentence hurt more than Vanessa's speech. Because the damage had spread. I opened my arms. Emma climbed beside me. Getting older doesn't mean someone stops needing love, I whispered. I don't want you to go. I closed my eyes. Neither did I. Not like this. Not packed away like unwanted Christmas decorations. Down the hall, Vanessa called Emma back to bed. At the door, Emma paused. Grandma. Yes. Mom gets mean when she's scared. Then she disappeared. Ich said frozen. Because for the first time the situation no longer felt simple. Vanessa was not only cold, she was afraid. And I had not yet discovered why. I barely slept. At 3 a.m, I went downstairs for water. The house felt colder at night. The Christmas tree still glowed in the living room. Wrapped gifts sat beneath it, some with tags in my handwriting. I had wrapped everyone while Vanessa answered work emails at the kitchen island. Then I saw light beneath her office door. Voices. Low. Sharp. We can't keep delaying this, Vanessa whispered. The bank is already asking questions. Daniel sounded tired. It's Christmas Eve. That doesn't change anything. Papers shuffled. Once she leaves, we can finally move forward with the refinance. Refinance. My hand tightened around the glass. You promised this would stay temporary, Daniel said. I didn't realize your mother's name was still connected to the trust paperwork. Silence. Then Vanessa said, neither did I. My breath caught. Trust paperwork. Suddenly memories rushed back. Vanessa after Robert's funeral. Did Dad ever update the estate documents? Where does the property tax bill get mailed? Do you still have access to his investment accounts? I had thought she was helping. Now I stood barefoot in the dark hallway and understood. She had not invited me into her home only out of compassion. She needed access to something connected to me. The attorney said we can't touch the lake property until she signs, Daniel muttered. Lake property. Robert's family cabin in Vermont. The place where we spent summers when Vanessa was small. Then we get her to sign, Vanessa said. And if she refuses? Another silence. Then my daughter laughed. Cold. Mom hates conflict. She always folds eventually. I stepped backward before they could hear me. Upstairs, I locked the guest room door for the first time since moving in. Then I opened the nightstand drawer. Inside was Robert's leather folder. His final estate documents. I had brought them after the condo flood without thinking. Now I understood something important. Vanessa thought I was weak, dependent, too emotional to notice. But she had made one mistake. She assumed age had made me stop paying attention. Christmas morning arrived quietly. Fresh snow covered the neighborhood. Inside, Vanessa made coffee while Daniel read news headlines on his tablet. The twins opened presents on the rug. I sat beside the fireplace with untouched tea. Vanessa avoided my eyes. After what I overheard, I saw everything differently. Every smile looked rehearsed. Every gentle word sounded strategic. Mom, Vanessa said suddenly. Are you feeling all right? Ich slept fine. Good. I was thinking maybe after breakfast we could go over some paperwork. Just practical things. There it was. Too fast. Too eager. What kind of paperwork? Insurance documents. Emergency contacts. Things like that. Daniel's jaw tightened. He knew. Another day perhaps, I said. Vanessa forced a smile. Sure. Whenever you're ready. But her fingers tapped against her mug. Fear again. Then my phone buzzed. Martin Green. Robert's attorney. I had not seen his name in months. Merry Christmas, Eleanor, he said warmly. I hope I'm not interrupting. I looked at Vanessa across the room. Not at all. I'm sorry to call during the holiday, Martin continued. But I received several automated notifications regarding attempted access requests connected to Robert's estate accounts. My stomach tightened. What kind? Preliminary review requests for trust-held properties and refinancing eligibility. I looked at Vanessa. She stood by the kitchen island pouring orange juice, pretending not to listen. Was anything approved? No, Martin said. Robert structured everything carefully. Nothing moves without your direct authorization. Relief and sadness mixed inside me. Robert had protected me even after death. Martin, I asked, has anyone else contacted your office recently? A pause. Your daughter called twice last month asking general questions about transfer procedures. There it was. Not suspicion anymore. Confirmation. Eleanor, Martin said gently, is everything all right? I looked around the room. The tree. The wrapping paper. My daughter smiling brightly for the children while trying to maneuver me out of the way. I think, I said softly, I finally understand what's happening. Martin lowered his voice. There are some things in Robert's files you should review personally. What things? Your husband made several last-minute adjustments about 6 months before he died. He called them precautionary. Precautionary. I looked at Vanessa. For the first time I did not see power. I saw desperation. The day after Christmas, I told Vanessa I wanted fresh air. She stood near the front door holding her coffee mug with both hands. Do you want me to come with you? No, I said, buttoning my coat. I think I remember how to drive. Embarrassment flickered across her face. Outside, the December air cut into my lungs. Snow crunched beneath my boots. For the first time in days, I could breathe without being watched. I drove straight to Martin Green's office downtown. The building looked the same. Dark brick. Brass directory. The smell of old paper and coffee. Martin opened the door before I knocked. Eleanor, he said quietly, you look exhausted. I think I finally am. He guided me inside. On his wall hung a photograph of him and Robert fishing years earlier. Seeing Robert's smile almost unraveled me. Martin noticed. He worried about you constantly near the end. You mentioned precautionary changes. Martin opened a leather folder. 6 months before Robert passed, he became concerned about financial pressure within the family. Vanessa. He never accused her directly, but he said she had started asking unusual questions about property transfers, refinancing structures, and trust limitations. I stared at the papers. Vanessa helping with bills. Vanessa organizing files. Vanessa asking where keys were kept. Most importantly, Martin said, Robert placed the Vermont Lake property and several investment accounts into a protected family trust controlled entirely by you. Entirely. Yes. No sale, refinance, transfer, or liquidation can occur without your written authorization witnessed by this office. For a moment I simply stared. Vanessa doesn't know that. No, Martin said. Apparently not. Then he handed me printed copies. 3 access attempts. Vanessa Carter. Questions about refinancing eligibility. Transfer contingencies after senior relocation. Senior relocation. A clean phrase for pushing an old woman out of her life. She planned this, I whispered. Martin leaned back. Do you feel safe remaining in that house? The answer came before I could soften it. No, not physically unsafe. Something colder. Emotionally studied. Managed. Cornered like paperwork waiting for a signature. I think my daughter stopped seeing me as a person, I said. Martin's expression softened. Robert once told me you spent your marriage protecting everyone else from discomfort. I gave a tired smile. That sounds like him. Maybe it's time someone protected you. Outside, snow drifted over Main Street, and I understood my life had split in two. The woman I had been before Christmas Eve, and the woman beginning to emerge after it. When I returned, the house felt strangely cheerful. Candles burned in the living room. The twins built a blanket fort. An old Christmas movie played softly. For a second, the normalcy almost made me question myself. Almost. Vanessa looked up immediately. There you are. You were gone a long time. I stopped for coffee. Alone. Yes, Vanessa. Adults sometimes do that. Daniel nearly smiled into his mug. Vanessa's expression tightened. Well, she said briskly, I organized some documents while you were out. On the dining table sat folders, a legal pad, and 2 pens. What kind of documents? Just preliminary paperwork to simplify things moving forward. Medical preferences. Housing options. Temporary financial authority if emergencies happen. Temporary financial authority. There it was. A snake in plain sight. I walked closer. Vanessa slid one page toward me. Durable financial power of attorney. This would just allow me to help manage things if your health declines. I looked at the document. Did not touch it. You prepared this quickly. Somebody has to think practically. Did you prepare it before or after you packed my belongings? Silence. Daniel looked away. Vanessa inhaled. You're twisting this into something ugly. No, I said. I'm finally seeing it clearly. Her composure cracked. You always do this. You act fragile until someone tries to solve a problem, then you make them feel guilty for helping. The twins stopped laughing in the next room. I looked at my daughter. Not cruel. Desperate. How much debt are you in? I asked. Vanessa froze. Daniel's face drained. Truth always arrives in the eyes first. I don't know what you're talking about, Vanessa said. The refinance requests. The trust inquiries. The Vermont property. Her face went pale. Mom. Robert knew, I said. That's why he protected everything. Daniel set down his mug hard. Vanessa, he said. You told me your mother already agreed to discuss transferring authority. Vanessa turned sharply. Not now. No, Daniel said. Now. The room changed. The careful version of events she had built began slipping. The business lost 2 major clients this fall, Daniel admitted. The mortgage payments became difficult. I looked at Vanessa. So you decided your mother was the solution. You don't understand, she whispered. We were trying to save this family. By removing me from it? Tears filled her eyes. But they no longer moved me the same way. Because sometimes people cry not because they hurt you. They cry because their plan stopped working. After that, the house became quieter. Not peaceful. Quiet the way hospitals are quiet after bad news. Vanessa avoided me unless she needed information. Daniel moved around the house like a man ashamed of every room he entered. The twins sensed everything. Children always do. Emma brought me drawings and left them on my bed without speaking. Her brother, Caleb, began asking if I wanted help carrying laundry even though the baskets were half empty. Small kindnesses hurt when they come from children trapped inside adult failure. Vanessa stopped mentioning assisted living. She stopped mentioning paperwork. But the boxes stayed in the garage. That was the part one could not forgive. Not right away. Every time I passed that door, I imagined her folding my sweaters, wrapping Robert's books, deciding what pieces of my life belonged in cardboard. One afternoon I found my wedding album in a box labeled MISC. Miscellaneous. 38 years of marriage. A honeymoon in Maine. Vanessa as a newborn. Robert holding her outside the hospital with tears in his eyes. All of it placed under a word people use for things without category. I carried the album upstairs and sat on the bed. For the first time since Christmas Eve I cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quiet tears that slipped down before I could stop them. I cried for Robert. For the daughter I had lost while she was still alive. For the woman I used to be, the one who believed endurance was the same thing as love. That evening Vanessa knocked. She stood in the doorway. I didn't know the album was in there. I wiped my face. You didn't look. She shifted. I was overwhelmed. No, I said. You were determined. Her mouth tightened. Mom, I said I'm sorry. You haven't said that. She looked startled. Then defensive. Well, I'm trying. Closed the album. Trying would have been speaking to me before packing my things. Trying would have been telling me the truth about the debt. Trying would have been remembering I was your mother before you treated me like paperwork. She looked away. For once she had no polished answer. That night I called Martin. I'm ready, I said. For what? To leave. 3 weeks later, I left on a gray January morning. There were no dramatic speeches. No slam doors. No final argument. By then, silence had become heavier than shouting. Martin helped me secure a temporary apartment near the shoreline in Rhode Island, while repairs on my condo continued. Small. Quiet. Walking distance from the water. A place where nobody asked me to justify taking up space. Daniel carried my suitcase to the car. He looked older. Secrets do that to people. I'm sorry, he said. I studied him. You should have spoken sooner. He nodded. Because he knew. Vanessa stood by the front door with her arms folded against the cold. She had barely spoken to me in days except for clipped questions about mail and insurance. Emma ran down the driveway and wrapped both arms around my waist. Are you coming back? I crouched carefully despite the ache in my knees. I will always be your grandmother, I said. No matter where I live. She tried not to cry. Across the driveway, Vanessa looked away first. I handed Daniel the spare garage opener. Then I faced my daughter one last time. For a second, I searched for the little girl she used to be. The child waiting by the window after school. The teenager crying over heartbreak. The young mother placing her first baby in my arms. But people eventually become who they choose to be. And mothers sometimes hold on to old versions of their children long after those versions are gone. Mom, Vanessa said suddenly. Her voice sounded smaller. I never wanted things to happen like this. I paused with my hand on the car door. Snow melted against my gloves. That's the problem, Vanessa, I said. You stopped seeing me as a person while convincing yourself you were still a good daughter. She flinched. I did not raise my voice. At my age, I had learned the truth lands harder when spoken softly. Then I drove away. I did not look back. The Rhode Island apartment overlooked the ocean from a narrow balcony barely large enough for 2 chairs and a small table. Every morning I made coffee before sunrise and watched gulls drift over the water while the sky turned silver blue. The quiet felt different there. Not loneliness. Peace. I bought groceries for one. It took time to learn the math of my own needs. 1 loaf of bread. Half a pound of turkey. Small carton of milk. No family-sized cereal boxes. No extra snacks for grandchildren after school. No doubling recipes just in case Vanessa was too tired to cook. First I felt guilty. Then I felt tired of feeling guilty. Martin informed Vanessa through legal channels that all refinancing requests connected to Robert's trust had been permanently denied. Additional protections were added. No property could be touched. No account could be accessed. No document could be submitted without my direct consent. Vanessa stopped calling. Months passed. Spring softened the shoreline. Summer brought tourists with beach towels and sunburned shoulders. I walked slowly along the water in the evenings, my cane tapping against the boardwalk. Sometimes I missed them so badly it embarrassed me. Not Vanessa exactly. The idea of us. The old Christmas mornings. The family dinners. The version of motherhood where sacrifice eventually turns into gratitude. But not all sacrifices are remembered. Some are simply consumed. Emma sent postcards. Daniel drove the twins to visit twice without Vanessa. He looked ashamed the first time. I made sandwiches anyway. Because children should never be punished for adult betrayal. Emma asked if I was happy. I looked around my small kitchen, at the chipped mug, the ocean outside, Robert's photograph beside the window. I'm learning, I said. That was the truth. Not happy every day. Not healed. But learning. One rainy evening in late autumn, my phone lit up with Vanessa's name. I sat wrapped in a blanket while waves struck the shoreline below my apartment. For a long moment I stared at the screen. Then I answered. Mom, she whispered. Her voice sounded tired. Fragile. Closed my eyes. Not because I hated her. I did not. Mothers rarely stop loving their children completely, even after betrayal. But love changes shape after trust breaks. I heard you moved near the water, she said. Yes. Dad always wanted that for you. Outside, rain tapped against the glass. Yes, I said. He did. Silence stretched. Then Vanessa whispered the words I once desperately wanted. I'm sorry. I looked out at the dark ocean. I thought about Christmas Eve. The boxes. The medication comment at dinner. The garage. The legal papers. The careful humiliation disguised as concern. And strangely, I no longer felt angry. Just older. Wiser. More aware of the price of staying where your dignity is unwelcome. I know, I said softly. She began to cry. This time I did not rush to comfort her. That may sound cruel to someone who has never been the mother everyone expects to absorb the damage. But I had spent decades softening consequences for people I loved. I could not do it anymore. I love you, Vanessa said. I love you too, I replied. And both things were true. But love was not permission. Love was not access. Love was not a signature on a document. Love was not letting myself be packed into boxes so someone else could feel less afraid. I'm not ready to come back into the family the way things were, I said. She was quiet. I understand. Maybe she did. Maybe she only understood that the old version of me was gone. Either way, it was enough for that moment. After we ended the call, I sat listening to the rain. Robert's photo rested beside the lamp. His smile looked gentle in the warm light. For the first time in years, I did not feel like I was waiting for someone to remember my worth. I remembered it myself. The next morning, I woke before sunrise, made coffee, opened the balcony door. The air smelled like salt and rain. Far out over the water, the first thin line of light appeared. Not bright, not dramatic, just steady. And for a woman who had been made invisible inside her own family, steady felt like a miracle.